Hello, folks, and welcome to another My Music. Now, if, like me, once upon a time you sat in a field watching equestrian goings on in the background, not really interested in any of that, but were transfixed by the sounds of Jean-Michel Jarre coming out of the tape player, which was in my mum and dad's car at the time, and wondering why things like Oxygen and Equinox were so fantastic, you would have known that some of us out there just love the sounds of keyboards and electronica, and we enjoy both the geekiness and the beauty that is the landscapes one can create for the mind with electronic music. And today I'm joined by someone that probably shares some of that interest in that kind of ambience, Claude9. And we shall be getting to know Claude9 a little bit more straight after this. Again, a little bit of electronica, but slightly more aggressive.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Hello, sir. Thank you for joining me all the way from America. All the
Yes.
way from where? Tell everybody exactly where you are.
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Austin in Texas.
Yeah.
And it's hot apparently there at the moment.
It's
What are
hot.
you calling hot? Because what we call hot here in the UK is anything above 28 degrees.
Well, I mean, I don't understand how it would translate to Celsius, but it's Fahrenheit. It's about 95, but it's been around 100 lately.
Wow.
So
Wow.
and quite humid as well. So
Yeah. Oh dear. 95 Fahrenheit to Celsius would be 35 degrees.
okay, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So quite considerably warmer than anything that we've had here in the UK or likely to. And, you know, if we had that, then suddenly all of our plants would die,
Mhm.
you know, and we'd be left with nothing to eat probably as well. So we're kind of glad it may happen. We are predicted a heat wave. So who knows?
Really.
We are always predicted them, and then the rain comes. So
Yeah.
they can never get the weather right these days.
No.
With the changing world, it can never happen. So listen, do introduce yourself. Tell people who you are to begin with.
I am Claude McCann is my real name. My musical name is Claude9, which I've had for quite a while, since the 90s. But I have been playing music. I've been a live musician for since the late 70s, and played in a lot of different sorts of band. But when people ask me what sort of music do you play, I say all the groovy kinds. I said reggae, funk, Latin, hip hop, house, and various types of electronica. So can't really put down more than that. Yeah.
All the groovy kinds. None of this dark stuff that makes people unhappy. You play soul music, really, or music for the soul.
Right.
Yeah. Just to clarify between those two.
Yeah.
Where did it start for you? As I say, do you know what? It's such a vivid memory still being in that car.
Yeah.
In the middle of this field, trying to get away from what was out on the outside, right?
Yes. As you mentioned, I mean, one of my earliest things was Jean-Michel Jarre as well. Was kind of that and Kraftwerk, of course. And I like the electronics of reggae and dub as well. That was a big influence on me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what was it about? You know, for me, things like Jarre were so close to if you like classical music as well, do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was these were whole pieces, not just songs, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it was for me. It was the fact that, you know, I was so used to hearing at the time. I was used to hearing a lot of pop songs, which were, you know, 3-4 minutes long,
Yeah.
with kind of the obvious structure.
Hmm.
But these were pieces, and the fact that these pieces were running into the next piece, and then, you know, in a sort of quasi classical way, it didn't make sense unless it really was the whole piece, and
Right.
you wanted to listen to the whole thing, which is why it was a bit of annoying, really, actually, listening to that stuff on tape, because, because you literally had to, you know, and quite often, depending on how the tape player worked, you got to the end of one side and you had to kind of like flip it and then do the thing where it goes all the way back and then start again. Anyway, it was just
Yeah.
kind of annoying, but quite beautiful at the same time. And it was music that you could kind of make your own films up
Story
to
too.
in your
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I really enjoy that about electronic music as well. You know, it's sort of like, I mean, especially with Jarre and some of those things, it was the whole album was the piece. It wasn't the individual pieces.
No.
And I tried to kind of do that with my Chords of Love album as well, and have things move into each, go from one song to another without really stopping.
No, and absolutely. You mentioned sort of like reggae music, etc. as well.
Mhm.
Who were you listening to, sort of reggae wise? Was it the obvious ones, or were there sort of like, were you sort of like getting on the sort of Trojan back catalogue and finding like people that, you know, not necessarily everyone had heard of?
Well, at first it was the obvious ones like Third World and Bob Marley and Burning Spear and stuff. But I got into the Trojan back catalog, and then, you know, and sort of, I actually was quite a big fan of English reggae like Oswald and Steel Pulse and Matumbi as well. So
Don't
yeah,
turn around.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They had
Well, that
great
was one of
hats.
their most commercial songs, but yeah, with that was,
Yeah. They had great hats though. They had
yeah,
great hats, great hair, great hats. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Um, there was there was a lovely soulfulness about a band like Aswad as well.
Mhm.
It was nice actually. There was a great period where there were sort of like a lot of bands bringing in elements of reggae
Yeah,
into what they were doing, but it wasn't necessarily reggae, right? You
yes.
know what I mean?
Well,
Especially
yeah, and
throughout like the
especially like
80s.
in the 80s,
Yeah.
that really, I was playing in reggae bands in the 80s, and that gave us everybody a big lift, you know, especially like the Police and Clash and stuff like that. But I was very into the two-tone music, and English Beat is one of my favorite bands ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you go about when you're sort of bringing those two influences together, if you like, sort of reggae, dub, etc., and the sort of more soundscapey
Mhm.
type of music as well? How do you go about knowing which way to weight that, if you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, really, in lots of, maybe not so much the 70s electronica, but as it went on into the 80s and house music and stuff, the way that electronic music was mixed had a lot to do with dub music,
Yeah.
bringing things in and out and a lot of effects and stuff like that. So and using that not just as an effect, but it's really part of the music.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of done that, whatever type of music I was in. You know, I was a big fan of King Tubby and Lee Scratch Perry and stuff like that. Actually, I've done shows with Lee Scratch Perry here in Austin. But so it's there's always a little bit of that there in my music, even if the music is not really a reggae song. But and then just the heavy bass and stuff like that.
Yeah. As it went on throughout into the sort of 90s, were you then sort of like picking up on stuff like the Orb and
Oh yes,
yeah,
was the Orb and KLF and drum and bass music. At one time I kind of thought drum and bass was going to be like the new reggae. And
it kind of what came in and came out.
When it came in as jungle, it kind of was that, yeah.
yeah. It seemed to spark, sizzle, and well, I mean, it's always still there, right?
Yeah.
And you see it come in and go out again, come in, go out again. But it was very fleeting in a way when it did come in. I never quite worked out why it was quite so fleeting. I think it just kind of became. I think it was because it was actually born out of such an underground movement, and as soon as it became popular, it wasn't underground anymore, and like the people that had kind of built it didn't necessarily want to support it anymore because it was not the precious thing that they kind of created in the first place. Do you know what I mean? It kind of, I think it was actually around a lot longer than most people saw it from a commercial point of view. But by the time it became commercial, the people it belonged to were like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the time, when it was first coming out, I had, already changed. I was listening to CDs. I didn't have a turntable anymore. But I had to get one because that was basically the only way to listen to drum and bass or jungle music.
Yeah.
So I started to go into the DJ stores and getting it there. And it seemed like at one point there was a backlash, like they were going against the raga reggae part of it and going in a different a more aggressive kind of direction. But things go up.
We obviously had a great scene in sort of the southwest of England. I was explaining to you where I live just before we came on in the southwest of England. But actually, one thing that the southwest of England was quite well known for was that whole kind of burst of scene. We had people like Ronnie Size, Brown Paper Bag, all of that sort of thing coming out of there, and then people like Massive Attack as well.
Yes.
I
was very influenced by the whole trip hop, Massive Attack, and type of music. When that came out in the early in like 91 or whenever, that just really hit me hard because it had all the elements of what I like. It had reggae in it. It had funk. It had hip hop in it.
It was emotive.
Right. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it seems to sort of like it wasn't pure pop either. There was almost more of a progressive element to it, which was songs were fully developed pieces. They weren't just being truncated to. I think it caused radio quite a problem at the time, and I think actually a lot of people played with that as well within the industry. There was a whole thing where I'm trying to remember now whether I think it was the Orb did a single where it was literally at the limit time wise
of
to what could be deemed as a single before it became an album. It was like 38 point something minutes or whatever. All of that's changed now. But and it really caused a lot of stink. But I like that. I like the disruptive nature of it. Talk to me about Chords of Love then. When did you first start working on this?
Well, it was when I was started right before COVID and kind of started on one song. It was originally going to be a collaboration with another friend of mine, Al Esch, at his studio, but then COVID happened and we couldn't get together anymore. And I had lots of time.
As you do.
That's basically all I had to do. So I started working on it then. And I also, because of that, it sort of, I felt freed from really commercial constraints. I felt like, well, I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing and experiment and go along with that. So, because who knows what will happen. So,
and do you know what?
and I actually, that was the only, I'm a big fan of Brian Ferry and Roxy Music. And I had seen his show with a woman called Georgia Chalmers that played sax.
Mm-hmm.
And, I said, I'd really like to get on the album, but it'll never happen. Then when COVID, I just got on Facebook and sent her a message. And she goes, yeah, I'm not doing anything. So if you want me to play on some tracks. So that was how. She's on the first and last track in the album, and she did a great job when it was totally remote. I've never actually met her.
No.
In person.
COVID was a great facilitator for so many things in a way. I mean, it was let's not make light of it. It was an incredibly dreadful period, right?
Yeah.
And goodness only knows what history will make of it. I'm sometimes perturbed in a way that we're already beginning to forget.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of worrying, but the human, it's kind of almost human nature to kind of move past these things very quickly and kind of forget. But the reality of it was a dreadful, dreadful time. But for lots of us, it did give opportunity to perhaps have those conversations with people that ordinarily wouldn't have happened. I mean, like the amount of musicians like you that I've talked to who said, yeah, I managed to, facilitate this person coming in on my album. And for me, it meant, because I started this in the middle of this, I could get hold of members of Genesis and Yes and people like that. And it was like, now ordinarily, these people are really hard to get hold of. But, they were bored. They were sat around at home. I remember talking to like Billy Sherwood, who's the current bass player with Yes, and he went, I would play for 2 people in Starbucks right now. Literally, give me the opportunity to go down Starbucks and play in front of 2 people. I'll do it, and I'd do it for a cup of coffee. I really, that's mad.
Yeah.
That's mad. Fast forward and these people play in front of, vast audiences at like the O2 or whatever else. It's just mental. It really is mental. It's a great album cover as well for Chords of Love. Who did that?
Well, it's a guitarist friend named Fumi Sugawara from Japan. He lives in Austin though.
He's cool.
We did a band called 35mm that was kind of a spy jazz soundtrack band, and he had an idea of the graphics, and he just taught himself how to do graphics.
Wow.
But he'd always been artistically inclined and stuff like that, and his mother was a calligrapher in Japan.
Right.
But his stuff I love it because it's always art, but it works for what you need it to also.
It's got some of those. I mean, it's kind of a hand. There's almost like a face at the bottom.
There's a face down there. Yeah.
Yeah. There's almost like for anyone that I need to describe this to, the face is almost like Bumblebee out of Transformers at the bottom. Yeah. And then there's all of this like almost like road stroke liquid flowing out of the hand, which is tremendous, and there's some clouds, and then there's like almost like a Tron type grid in the background.
There's people that tell me, oh, I see other faces in there too. I can't see them. I mean, I see the one main face, but I mean, it's that kind of thing. You could look at it, you can see a lot.
Certainly there's a lot going on in there.
Yeah.
An awful lot going on in there. And what's great about it, and what the other thing that makes it go with the music so much is that it's part 1980s stylish. It's got that. It's partly some of the colors that he's using there are part sort of like very famous Japanese art that, you know, with the sort of like the waves and everything. And some of it's like sort of Daft Punky. I mean, it's just, it actually covers so many different reference points whilst still being different. It's great, isn't it? You know?
Well, I mean, he knows me very well. We know each other very well, so we can work together. Like he knows what my music is like and what kind of my aesthetic is, and we share that. So
now listen, you've got a song on there called "Down to the Underground." I want to know your best underground story, because I don't know whether have you been to the UK on the underground in the UK?
I have, not for a long time, not since the 80s, but I've been, and it wasn't, the song wasn't really about going down into the subway as much as it was just getting back to the underground art aesthetic or something.
Underground art, I totally got that. I just wondered what is your best kind of underground thing, because for me, I used to have to go on the underground on a fairly regular basis to get into central London. And there's this whole bit where if you get into Waterloo and you go from Waterloo to Bank, you actually descend this ramp. Well, all these people, especially at that time in the morning, all these people going to crawl like that down this ramp, and it feels like descending into hell.
Well, I remember in Paris one time, I was in the metro and the train was not coming, but I would sometimes see people crawl out of these spaces down where the train was going to come, and I was like, where are they coming from? And and so that, I mean, and I used to go on it in New York and stuff like that. I guess my weirdest thing was I was in Manhattan and I was going to go see a concert on Staten Island, and it was going to be a real psychedelic concert. So I took some LSD and I was on the underground, and I was with some friends, and I thought that was a stop, and the doors opened, and I jumped out, and they said, no, man, this is not it. And I looked around, and I jumped in right as the door closed, and otherwise I would have been totally lost and not know what it was. So
there's a story. There's a story. Now, don't take this the wrong way. This is a positive thing.
Okay.
But the thing is, this music that you make here, I think should be more commercial than it is, right? And the reason I say that is because we live in an incredibly busy world these days, right? Where a bit like getting people to stop and do nothing and just take music in is really difficult. Now, the beautiful thing about an album like this, and I tried it earlier, right? So you can work to this, right? You can actually work to this. And actually, if you're doing something creative, and I do something creative, listening to music like this kind of helps the creative process, because it kind of creates stuff in your mind because there's no lyrics in there and etc., without distracting the mind at the same time. But I think the beauty, what you've got here is a product which really should be a twofer, because not only can you sit here and you could work to this, so therefore you could get value out of this while you're doing something else,
Mhm.
right? When you then sit and listen to it without doing anything else, it works on a completely different level. So do you know what I'm saying here?
Yes, I
This
mean,
kind
and
of
I've got a lot of comments from people who have said, I love it because I can put it on when I'm working on the computer or whatever, and it doesn't really intrude, but it gives me something, a little something.
yeah.
And
If only you could bottle it, Claude.
yeah, right. I know. And then you can listen to, I try to ask people, I said, try listening to the whole thing just at least once, just because that's part of my thing. Part of my reason for doing it is I say on the back, slow down, relax, and listen. Do that. I feel that there's so much loss of people not really listening to whole albums anymore. And
Yeah.
the whole Spotify thing, just do your singles or just do a couple of songs, and you lose a lot there.
We seem to be having a growing, I don't know whether that's a trend where you are though, but we seem to be having a resurgence, a kind of growing trend again in the UK for artists to do the sort of, not just do the record shop signing bit, but also to do a record shop listening party where literally everybody sits there and does listen to the whole album together.
Yes, that's I haven't done, when I'm doing the record store things, I'm usually doing, because I actually perform some of this music live as well. And I have a little setup to do that, but I'm usually doing it live. But there are listening parties happening, and there's a place in Austin called the Equipment Room that's kind of like the Japanese listening bars.
Nice.
Where they have a really, really good system, and they actually enforce, like, you can talk, but not too loud.
No.
And they'll tell you if you're, if you
turn your phone off.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
yeah, I think it's beginning to get there. I've heard, like, I was talking to someone else earlier this week, and they said that they're starting to do more things where they're enforcing, like, for people to not take their phone.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
It is. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, I hate to try to tell people what to do when they're at it.
At the same time.
But at the same time, I went to a Mayor Hawthorne show, and he played a couple of songs. People were taking videos. He goes, "I'm going to take a picture, y'all. You're a great crowd." And he goes, "Now, you want to take a picture?" He says, "Okay, now let's put them away for the rest of the show and listen or dance, whatever." Yeah.
I've been to a number of shows where people have said that. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult, because especially when you're a young artist and you're trying to get traction and whatever, one of the ways that you can do that is by everybody sharing that they're at your experience and whatever else. So it's a double-edged sword, but
you're not really, there is that, and I know we need that for promotion stuff sometimes, but it's just such a different experience, even if you're there while it's being live, but you're looking at it through your phone rather than looking at it. It's just different. You're not really experiencing it fully. So,
and unfortunately, this is how we all experience the world now.
Yeah.
People go to the other side of the world to see something, and then they stand there videoing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm guilty. I went to Bilbao last summer to see Massive Attack and Grace Jones, because I've been trying to see Grace Jones for forever.
Wow.
And I had to get a couple of videos. I mean, I had to.
Yeah.
To remember it. I tried not to do it too much. And great show though.
Great show.
Yeah.
Hey, she had some great producers over the time as well. Is there I've got to ask you this while I've got you there. I mean, obviously you're a guy that can produce as well. You know your way around this, how to use a computer and whatever, obviously, to record this stuff. But is there ever like a classic producer you've ever like gone, oh, do you know what? If only I could worked with them. I mean, like she worked with Trevor Horn, for example.
She worked with Trevor Horn, and the guy that mixed those albums, like for Grace Jones, not the Trevor Horn one, but I think his name's Alex Sadkin, who is kind of the guy that did all the Compass Point albums. And I really like her. The keyboardist on those albums, whose name is Wally Badarou, is a huge influence of mine.
Right.
I mean, I guess as a producer, I would say, man, that's a hard one because there's so many that I like. But actually, I would love to work with
Adrian Sherwood.
Yes, that is
right.
I'm a big fan of him and Mad Professor. But there was actually a show in Austin where Mad Professor did the sound mixing for Lee Scratch Perry, and it was crazy. But yeah,
we'll never say no.
Yeah, I know it could happen.
It could especially happen. If we tag them in. That's what I that's what I'm finding these days. You just tag people in, and then they just next thing you know, they're on your telephone, making something happen for you. Listen, my friend, it's been lovely talking to you.
Okay.
This album, how can people get hold of it? That's the important thing. This is what they want to know now. Having listened to us talk about it for the last 30 minutes, they now want to know how they can imbibe it properly.
You can get it on Bandcamp, New Human Music Bandcamp, or if you get Claude9, I believe it'll come up on Bandcamp too. New Human Music is a label that I run with a partner, and that's all electronic, but you can get it there. You can stream it everywhere, of course.
Oh, don't do that.
But no, go to the Bandcamp and buy it if you can. You can even buy the vinyl of it on Bandcamp, and you can even buy signed copies. Now I'm trying to get some European distribution on it because, frankly, on the Bandcamp, to try to ship it to Europe the shipping is going to be as much or more as the album.
You should talk to Adrian, who runs Analog Trash. Who's
really okay?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
He'd love to have a conversation with you about that.
Okay, that's a good thing. So, is that a distribution service or
that is an English record label, and it's Electronica in the main. So yeah, there you go.
I'll check that. Thanks for the tip. Yeah,
it'd be like, oh right, thanks for letting me know. But there we go. I mean, Adrian, Claude will be in touch. We never know. But it is a difficult one. There's so many bits of music that coming out of America where I've wanted to get those bits of music on vinyl or whatever, and it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
To get those bits of music over here, it's really, really difficult. I mean, it's fine for one or two copies for promo or whatever, but to get it over here in any kind of way for proper distribution, even artists like I was looking at like Casey Hill the other day and whatever. I mean, she's doing really well in the States or whatever, but her stuff, to get it over here, you end up paying like £17-18 worth of postage to get it. You're paying twice.
Right. It's twice. That's what I mean. I can understand why that'd be hard for people to do, but If you enjoy vinyl as well?
I love vinyl, my friend.
Okay.
It's absolute. Yeah. I mean, for people that don't realize, I
Yeah.
sit in this little cave. I'm surrounded by music.
Yeah.
Right. That's how it works. Right. We
Right.
have a record player over there, the CD player over there, the tape player over there, because you know some
Yeah.
people these days are putting stuff out on tape again, which is marvelous.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I work with a woman she's really a younger artist, and she does kind of like synthwave, vaporwave. And the people who like that are really into cassette tapes.
Yeah.
They buy them. They love them.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think
Okay.
it's a great way to go.
Well, I'll get your address and I'll send you a vinyl copy. Okay.
Thank you. That's very kind. Here's a band that were on the other day, my friend. The Wednesday Play. There we are. Look at that.
Oh wow.
They sent this through, and that was their little.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need tangible.
I know. I think because one day people are going to wake up and something's happened to their computer and they won't have any of their music. I think
It's already happening. It's already happening. I was saying to a friend literally yesterday, he's just got Spotify in his car and he was just amazed by it. It was like, I'm rediscovering all of this music from the 80s and whatever that I've never heard, for years and whatever. I said, that's brilliant. I said, but do you also realize that there's stuff from that period where it's not on there? It's not on any streaming platform.
Oh yeah.
And I've got copies of albums that are just not on any streaming platform, and yet they are brilliant albums. And you think one day, if we're not careful, that's gone. That's absolutely gone. And it's the same with photos, right?
Yeah.
You're all out there now. You take photos. You've got them up in your on a cloud storage space. One day someone pulls the plug on that. You haven't got it anymore. You haven't got it. Print them off, folks. Print them off. Have them physical. There's nothing like actually giving someone a book to go through and
photos. Yeah.
We're meant to be tangible human beings. Claude, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, sir. Do look out for the clips going out of this. And folks, go and buy Claude's music. Simple request, really. If you like it, do add it to playlists as well, because that's good, because that helps him on the old Spotify and whatever. I'll be adding something of Claude's to the My Music podcast playlist as well. So you can go and find it there. But go over to Bandcamp, put an order in. It's all right. It's all right. A cup of tea, please. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to come in on the interview. That's absolutely fine. But cup of tea and a biscuit, please. Claude's having a digestive and I'm having a rich tea.
Biscuits are different here in Texas, my friend.
Are they? What's a biscuit in Texas?
A biscuit is a big like this. We had gravy on it and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a southern thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna come to Texas sometime, and we're just gonna hang out and do biscuits together.
Yeah. Okay.
Folks, this has been the wonderful Claude. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. If you have, then remember, share this with your friends and your family. Do all of the button pressing that you have to do all of that stuff. You can find out more at mymusicpodcast.com. I shall be inviting Claude into the community he'll be there hopefully free of charge afterwards. You can join the community too. Adrian from the record company's in there, so you might be able to chat together in there. We will be back soon with more of the same, but until then, from Claude and me, bye for now.
Thanks a lot, Graham.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, folks.